So I'm going to start off with an article that was written by an American newspaper reporter in 1990. His name was Dave Barry, and he went with his family to London, England on vacation. Now, I have changed it very slightly here and there, but as it's nearly 25 years old, I think he'll forgive me for changing it. So this is what he wrote. The Brits have a lot of trouble with pronunciation because they can't move their jaw muscles because of malnutrition caused by wisely refusing to eat English food, much of which was designed and manufactured in medieval times during the reign of King Walter the Mildly Disturbed. Now, some of you might remember when you were in junior high school, and the cafeteria workers would serve you a scary-looking dish with a name like tuna bean, prune, cabbage, omelette, surprise casserole. Well, they still have a lot of food like that over in England on permanent display in bars that they call pubs. And that's where people drink for hours and don't eat anything. We saw individual servings of pub food that we recognized from our last visit in 1978. Londoners are apologetic about their tube, or as we say, the subway, which they believe has become filthy and noisy and dangerous. As far as I'm concerned, it's more civilized than the average town hall meeting here in Toronto. At the height of rush hour, people on the London Underground actually say, "Excuse me." Our primary cultural activity, so he said in London, was exchanging money. We had to do this a lot, he said, because the dollar was weak. So every day we'd go to one of the money-changing places that are all over London, and we'd exchange some dollars for British money, and then we'd look for something to eat that had been invented in this century, such as pizza. And we'd buy 3 slices for what we later realized was $247.50. And so we'd then go and exchange some more money. Meanwhile, the Japanese tourists were exchanging their money for items such as Westminster Abbey. Now, in the interest of broadening our 10-year-old son's cultural awareness, we visited some important historic sites, including the Tower of London, the Dungeon, Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, all of which are devoted to explaining in clinical detail how various historic members of royalty were whacked into small historic pieces. English history consists largely of royal people getting their heads chopped off, which is why members of the royal family now wear protective steel neck inserts, which is why they talk the way they do. An example of which you will hear later in my presentation. Another cultural activity we frequently engaged in was looking the wrong way before attempting to cross the street. Problem is that in Canada, people drive on the right side of the street, whereas in London, they drive on the left-hand side of the street using hard-to-see cars about the size of toaster ovens. Now, the best way to handle this, he said, as a tourist, is to remain on one side of the street for your entire visit and see the other side on another trip. That's that.